we're going to go immediately to the launch of the call for application of interest for the 30 renewable islands by 2030. Edita will introduce. I'm going to clean up here. And Sarah and Elise will be here with us on stage.
Okay, I think we come in quite timely after all this very comprehensive experience showcasing actually what we have been doing all together, what are the type of things you can look. And I really like, Jan, that you have been technical, because this is something also myself, being not an engineer, is not that easy and sometimes even not so exciting to see. But when you talk about it, we understand this was something worth doing, important doing, and this helps a lot for islanders, which are also maybe many of the islanders are not really engineers, but if you help them to see that things are feasible, possible. Also, it's very useful when you help them to see that things are not feasible, not possible, and you shouldn't waste energy on that. So here we come to something which was always in the logo, 30 fully renewable islands for 2030. And what Commissioner has officially and politically launched today, because indeed we need to match the action to the things we have been talking for the 5 years. We have been testing, trying to do. And as Eero said yesterday, we are growing up from the toddler's age in EU Islands Initiative and Secretariat. And we go to school and we need much more serious job to do and objectives to reach. So here it is. We need examples. We really need to be able to show that fully decarbonized energy systems on the islands are feasible, they are there, but they can be there everywhere, that they are useful for the islanders, that lots of good things happen, and we go and show them to other islands, we go and show them to the mainland, we go and show them to political level to see indeed if those islands could do it, it can be done everywhere, and we just need to go for it, and we need to get support for it. So here it is. We really come up with, we are inspired by 100 EU decarbonized cities by 2030, and also by the examples of islands. And we want to provide you with a very targeted, very bottom-up assistance packages, which are directed to each of the islands who will be applying, who will be accepted and successful. And, to go with you through all this way during 3 years with all, you've seen examples of types of assistance, but we always see that, as many people spoke, they need to be in one basket. We need to look at all aspects to make them work together, not one by one separately, and to see that it's matched, it works for the islands. So we have EU Island Secretariat who is compiling all the necessary experts, very good experts, and are ready, waiting for you to call, and they will be there. We are ensuring, of course, both political support, if we needing, talking to your member states, to your national authorities, to your local authorities, helping to build this support and need, and of course, helping also from the policy side. And to make it more, be bold, be brave, we heard it, but I want to say that it's our North Star objective to be 100% renewable islands. Well, I shouldn't start it from saying, but what happens if you don't reach it? But I think to be encouraging, we need to say that it's not a legal obligation. Yeah, you as island, you take commitment, you support it, you subscribe to it, and you work with the Secretariat on the project. But in the end, if you fall a bit short, and it can happen, we are all, as we say, we are kind of trying to go the way by going, but if something happens, it's not that you would be kind of legally or financially somehow punished. But, the work itself already brings benefit. And we discussed there are many benefits for islands, starting from, having strong communities who are ambitious and doing things, having cleaner air, having more habitability in the way you discussed it on all senses, having diversified economies. having self-sufficiency and sustainability, because we never know. I mean, world brings us crisis, and unfortunately brings more and more crisis. So even if you have, cable you always relied in, you cannot be sure that, this cable will be able to provide you with energy when the crisis like now with Russia's invasion in Ukraine happened. I mean, we were all Europe fearing blackouts, and Ireland is not somewhere which is safe. So I stop it there because I think the most interesting part is, to disclose, the practical things. What is there in the call? What is an offer? How you can apply? When you need to apply? And how you can find out if you have questions. But again, what Commissioner says, and I say, be brave, come. We need, the community, we need to try, and, the more the happier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edita. Is this working? Or do you hear me?
If you put
okay. Thank you for this very clear introduction, already pointing at the right aspects of the call. So in the next half an hour, my colleague Elise and me, and Jan, of course, when you can jump in whenever you want, we will tell you more about what the call specifically is about and how to apply. So because there are certain rules we need to follow, there is a timeline we need to take into account, and so this is the time to give you more information about that. Good. Maybe just as a little introduction, it would be good to go back to the start of the Clean Energy for EU Islands initiative. It was signed in 2017 in Valletta by the European Commission and 14 member states with largely populated islands. And from that, the initiative was launched, and a year after, the Clean Energy for EU Islands Secretariat was set up. It was a pioneering phase. The Secretariat reached out to the islands, and there was really a community built together with the islanders on, and with the local partners on the transition to clean energy. Then in 2020, the Memorandum of Split was signed, in which also member states confirmed their engagement, confirmed that clean energy transition is important for them. And this is also continued in the later stage of the future. And so it has been said already a few times, this initiative is very much backed by the European Council, backed by the European Commission, who funds it, backed by the European Parliament, because they also cooperated on the declaration. And so we are fully ready to go to the next phase. And then in the second phase, in 2021, it was started off. Jan told us already about these very nice projects. So about 80 islands were supported, of which half of them, 40 islands, were directly assisted with technical assistance from experts, but always in cooperation with the locals. And next to the direct assistance, there was also other work. And like Elise, you told us yesterday about the study that has been done on the barriers to clean energy transition. And these barriers consist, one of the main barriers is the grid constraint. And so this was studied during the second phase, and it will continue now with 10 cases that will look into detail. So what are what happens in non-interconnected islands, and what can we learn from good examples to show to other islands with isolated electricity systems. So that is the third phase already that I'm introducing. And it has been said also already quite a few times, this is the moment for implementation, really. We've studied a lot, we've looked into feasibility studies, and now emphasis is on implementing on the ground and looking at those last bits and pieces that are missing in terms of technical assistance and also in terms of financing. That's the core. So here you can have a nice overview of the technical assistance and the other issues that will be dealt with in phase 3. So on the technical assistance to the islands, we always speak about islands, but we also mean groups of islands. Of course, there are natural groups of islands like the archipelago that form naturally a group, but maybe like the dream of the Halki Island providing Rhodos with green electricity, with renewables. Maybe we can also think about certain grouped islands that can be formed in a natural way. And of course, there's also sometimes scaling needed for that funding. So think big and try to group wherever it's an added value and wherever it feels natural. And if not, if you have a good capacity on your island and you have a public authority supporting you, just go alone for the challenge and take it from there. Also something, so the financing, the funding, we talking about investment-ready, bankable projects. The session yesterday on financing, I think that for the people who joined it, that they are convinced right now that in our group we have, within the secretariat, we have very good knowledge, understanding of how blended financing can occur. So we have the right expertise to help you with that. And of course, there is already a lot available from just what we learned from Nesoi and from the previous phases. Okay. Now, from those 30 islands, there will be a lot of lessons learned, and we want to reach out to a much larger community to give them also guiding examples for their path to cleaner energy. So this will hopefully also be a very supportive work that we can do for a large group of islands. On the study of the connection policies, that's already something I mentioned. And then, of course, the platform of exchange that is there already. Eero also made some promotion for it. We will further develop it. We will further feed it with information and practice. We will continue to organize the island forums with excellent help from the Steinbeis colleagues. Big thanks already for this super intensive and nice 2 days. And of course, we will also continue the support where we can in the Memorandum of Split with perhaps also more focus on the grid constraints and what can be done about that. Edita already told it, and of course it's the core thing that we are all talking about. It has to be done bottom up. We need to cooperate with you because you are the ones on the islands telling us about the needs, about your specific situation, about the challenges that you have to face, and which regulatory rules you have. So therefore, we will also rely very much on regional partners that we have. We have regional partners in our consortium, like Daphne, like Samsø, who already have done such a good work. And there's many more, like Esin also here, like Pau from the University of Baleares. We have Riccardo here as well from the Politico-Technical, from Italy. And so there are more than that. And we will work with them on the ground because they are the ones who know the islands very well and can guide us also in how we can help further on and make the contacts there. And not to forget, we have in Think Europe, we have also almost 100 experts, regional experts who can support the data collection, who can support pinpointing the strengths, but also the weaknesses. Now, the why is something that has been mentioned here already a lot, and I personally was very touched by the urgency to act that Pau from the University of Baleares was talking about yesterday. He reminded us how important it is that we finally make the change and do the things on the ground and go for this large ambition to a carbon neutral future. And yeah, there is the ambition of the Commission for 2050, and we know now we are talking about 2030 for the islands. It's in advance, but there are also opportunities on the islands that hopefully make a more rapid, more complete transition possible, and that can act also as examples for the mainland because of the abundance of renewable energy sources they have. So we hope to take advantage of that situation and also set an example for many other countries. There was also mentioned, of course, today, yesterday, the increased quality of life, increased environmental quality that happens when you have all these renewable energy sources. Economic development. Alexis from Samsø mentioned that there are much more visits to the Samsø Island since their work. There were other islands mentioning that the unstable prices of fossil fuels can give a really large impact on the island. I remember that James from Island Innovation was saying that it's really wrecking economic impact when on an island the fossil fuels increase, even if prices increase a little bit. So if we can detach that and we can have renewable resources with stable prices, this is also very important for economics, apart from the quality of life. And of course, very naturally, the increased energy security, that's clear. And last but not least, the participation and ownership of renewable energy generation that can have a lot of benefits to local stakeholders. So not only economically, that's also possible, but also mentally. The mental ownership was something that Nuria from La Paloma Renewable was mentioning yesterday, that when people are engaged in this renewable energy communities, that they also start thinking about working together on other initiatives that are good for the planet or good for their local initiatives and local economy, or just cooperation. It gives a good incentive for that as well. So many benefits. Now, if we go very concrete, what do the 30, we call it 100% raised islands, just to be short, the 100% renewable energy sources islands, what do they commit to? It's already good to know that you will not be brought to court on the 1st of January 2031. That was already assured by Edita, so we can count on that. But what do you commit to? You commit to taking the 100% renewable energy sources vision as a guiding principle for the energy transition of the island. And how do we define this? We define it that all the local energy production, so we're talking about electricity, we are also talking about heat, about fuel for transport, should come from renewable energy sources, and as well for the production, for the consumption on the island. So in terms of electricity, in terms of heating and cooling, and in terms of transport, with a note that, of course, the island doesn't have impact on all of that. There are sectors like aviation, there are sectors like certain transport to and from the island. There are certain, there is the ETS schedule that is valid for the large industrial installations. Of course, we do not want 100% for everything. We want 100% for the things that the island has an impact on. And certainly there will be islands who are very much interested in cooperating on, for example, the electrification of ferries to and from the islands. So if that fits the plan you have for energy transition, of course it's possible, but it's not an obligation. And we combine it with energy efficiency because that's something we should think about first, as was also already mentioned quite a few times. The local priorities, challenges and needs are core, and that, starting from that, we will have a unique pathway per island or per group of islands to this 100% renewable energy sources. We call it a trajectory. It's a bit difficult name, perhaps not optimally chosen, but it is what it is. So the trajectory of the island to 100% renewable energy sources. And as Jan already mentioned just before, the island transition team is the team on the island that we will work with very closely, who also will commit to working with us, because it's not a laid-back exercise. We really expect active cooperation, active participation. So we need really that commitment and also the human resources available there. So, okay, and in this way we hope to implement impactful actions and projects. We structure it along a number of teams. I will not go into that detail, but it's just for you to know that that this is a large setting of possible teams on which you can work. Okay, so just very quickly, this is the support that you can have if you're one of the 30. You get this tailor-made support, so really made for you, made for your needs, and this spread over a period of 3 years. We will take into account as much as possible the timing for, again, of your needs, but also thank you for taking a bit into account that we have also our experts who need to be, who can't be everywhere at the same time. So, so we will try to plan it optimally. Okay, what did I? And yeah, the set of bankable projects is important, and finding financing, having this blended financing, and knowing where to go. This will be an important aspect for our work. The thematic workshops trainings will be made with active cooperation from the island, which is important. So it's really work to do. And then the assistance that we will provide you will be laid down in a trajectory agreement, a sort of contract between the island transition team and the secretariat. Okay. Now, very concretely, how to benefit, how to apply. This is the 4 phases that we see in with the deadlines for getting to the selection and the start of the work of the 3 years from next year onwards. So the preparation phase. This is part of the preparation, so this will be available as a sort of information session to be available on the YouTube channel and on our website, of course. You will also be able to ask questions after the session, and you can, of course, in the corridors ask many questions, or give us a call afterwards when you get back to the island. We are there for handling your questions on any of this. The submission is important. We try to make it as light as possible, so it's through a light application form online. It is available in the several languages, EU languages, but it needs to be submitted in English, but that's something for later on the next slide. You have to prepare the required documents. Elise will tell you more about that. And important, the deadline is the 6th of September. We try to lift it over summer because we know it's a very busy period for islands now, but on the other hand, we also need to have time to organize our work and to be able to start beginning of next year with the concrete work for you. So that's the deadline. And then we will evaluate the applications. An important step is to have online interviews with 2 persons from the secretariat, the regional partners that can help with translation, with understanding well what the remaining issues is. And the in-depth interviews will also allow us to shape the trajectory agreement very well, because that is the last phase. Define the trajectory, agree on what we can do for you, involve the right stakeholders who have access to data, the DSOs, to have the right persons on board to really make it happen. And then by Christmas, as a Christmas present, we hope there will be a trajectory agreement signed so that everything can start for you beginning of next year. I will give the floor to Elise, for our legal expert, for more about the required documents.
Yes, thank you very much. Oh, you've got the remote. Okay, perfectly fine. So just to really go out into the practical matters, the application can be submitted via EU survey. So that's actually the first document you have to submit, which is the application form in EU survey. All the information I'll be sharing here, I'll go quickly through it, is also on a guide for applicants, which will be published online and has all the details that we're speaking of today. So no need to memorize it all. It's all written down. Some crucial information that you should include in the application is, in any case, your contact information. And this includes not only the person applying, but also all the beneficiaries that will make up the island transition team. So all the municipalities involved, all the other stakeholders involved, including their contact information and a brief description of the island or group of islands that is applying. We will also ask for a brief description of the technical assistance that you are requesting. What's really useful to define the trajectory is also to know what the baseline situation is, so a brief description of what the situation is on the ground, what kind of projects you're thinking of doing or have begun to doing, which phase you're in, so that when we go into the interview phase, we can really have a starting point and kick off from there. That is to be submitted by the applicant. And then to support the first 2 columns, there are some required documents, a letter of commitment, and a declaration of honor. The letter of commitment includes a commitment of all the parties that are listed under the contact information. So not only the applicant, but actually every person that makes up the island transition team has to sign the commitment to say that they're committed to this trajectory, that they will actively participate and do their best to commit to the 100% res. Not a binding 100% res, but the commitment is binding. And the declaration of honor to sign that you're conforming to all EU norms. Some optional document can help to strengthen your application. Letters of support from any other stakeholder that doesn't make up the team, but that does support your trajectory, can be very beneficial for your application. So think of DSOs, TSOs, any other stakeholders, of organizations that might support your trajectory. Can sign a letter, because then within your application procedure it also shows that they're already committed. So what are the eligibility criteria? We've listed the most important ones here on the slide. All EU member states or states participating in a EU LIFE project are eligible to apply for assistance. This also includes the outermost regions and the outermost countries. And islands must be of a maximum of 30,000 kilometers squared. Does that include groups? No. That's about the island itself, not about the entire archipelago or the group. Beneficiaries are pretty much who is in the island transition team that we've mentioned a few times before today, and that must be representatives from at least 2 different groups of stakeholders, including a public authority and either a civil society, other public organization, business, academia. So ideally 2 different stakeholders, a minimum, within the island transition team. And as Sarah mentioned, the summer months will be the period for all the islands to use to prepare and submit their application. The deadline is the 6th of September, and that's for the selection of all 30 islands who will be getting support over the next course of the 3 years. So there is one call for these 3 years, for which the deadline is the 6th of September. And we will also have a deadline, which is to provide the supports no later than December 2026, because that will be the end of the 3-year track, which is also why we want to start as soon as possible in January, so you have the full 3 years to get support. We will provide support, but as Sarah and Jan mentioned before, we're doing this together with the Island Transition Team, so it's a commitment from both sides. In terms of language, the application itself should be submitted in English. This is for us to be able to compare and assess the applications. The EU survey itself will be available in different languages as well, to at least understand the questions better. And the support can also be provided in different language. So the English is really just for the submission of the application itself. Now, how will we evaluate the applications? First, and most heavily, we will assess who the island transition team is. Jan has mentioned it before, Sarah has mentioned it today as well, so I'll repeat it again. It's a commitment from both sides, so active participation on both sides will be really valued. So in evaluating the applications, we will also look at the island transition team, we will look at local leadership, the different stakeholders involved, but also the available resources. So those are 3 elements that will weigh importantly into your application. Stakeholder engagement is also important. Additional points will be given if a DSO or a TSO provides support, since we've mentioned grid constraints several times during the forum. This will be a factor that will also be heavily considered, but any encouragement from other stakeholders will weigh in to your application as well. Nuria mentioned it yesterday as well, energy systems, multi-sectoral approach. Claire mentioned it yesterday as well during her panel session. It's the focus is on renewables, but we don't focus only on electricity. We will also look at heating and cooling, but also, for example, waste management, environmental concerns. A multi-sectoral approach will also be looked at in your application and for the projects that we'll be applying. Impact and replicability is an important factor. We want projects that you can also show and give a good example to other islands and countries within the EU, as well as any alignment with the Repower EU objectives will also give you bonus points in your application.
Thank you, Elise. Okay, thank you. Now, what do we have on offer? If you're not finally among the 30, there will be a follow-up program for which there will be also a specific call, if necessary. That's aimed at disseminating all the lessons learned from the 30 islands. You will not get the tailor-made advice specifically for your island, but you will have additional case studies, additional insights that you can learn from. You will also have the opportunity to join certain workshops on certain topics, because the workshops and the webinars will be specifically put together, specifically tailored to the topics that are important for the 30 islands, but these will also be, of course, be relevant for you, so you can join certain of that workshops, for a certain period of time. Okay, but I guess, the followers can already have access to all the lessons learned now. I think the 30 islands have, really intensive, much more intensive cooperation. But it will be beneficial for the whole group of follower islands. So that's in a nutshell what the call is about, how to apply. There is room for questions, I hope. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And if there's some more questions afterwards, don't hesitate to come back to us in the corridors or afterwards. We'll be happy to help.
So there's questions already here. Pau and then Kostas.
So thank you very much. I have many questions, but I will only ask one so that everyone has a chance. So one question. I think it's very interesting that the group of islands can actually submit their proposal. But I have a question about which group of islands. Are we talking about an archipelago? Or could we even imagine islands that do not come from the same geographical area, but who share other similar traits, like population, type of renewable that would be more advisable to be put there? I don't know. How close is the concept of group of islands? Because I could think of maybe interesting collaboration between islands from very different geographical areas.
But the question is also how to. Is this work? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The question is also then how the technical assistance will be able to, because in that case the technical assistance would take into account all the different situations of the group of islands, and in the end you can then bring any islands together to get the specific technical assistance, which is not feasible, I guess, if you take it very broadly. But perhaps you are also pointing at certain situations where you see a limited group of islands.
I was thinking like, I don't know, 2-3 islands which are not close together but share many, many different points.
Perhaps if I can come in here, two elements are important here. One is, and it's been stressed by Sarah and Elise, we need a functioning transition team. It's very important because if we want to work for 3 years, it cannot depend on just one person or there has to be a structure. There has to be an organization, a collaboration, so that we can work together for 3 years. And I've had the questions for islands that are closer, and I also said there it's important if you take 2 islands that are, for instance, neighboring, and they have never worked together on anything, and there's no structure of working together and so forth. We will look into how you organize then the cooperation, because we don't want to get into, after 1 year, having 2 islands that are no longer cooperating because it doesn't work with them, and then obviously the whole assistance and the objective falls flat. So a functioning transition team is important. So if you have 2 islands, even if they're far, but they show that there is a structure to cooperate and it's going to work, okay. Second, obviously, the technical assistant is there in time and in expertise. If there's 2 or more islands to work with, it has to be feasible. And for instance, Sarah mentioned in the presentation, the workshops will be integrated into the technical assistance, and it's going to be very much like the study tours you saw of Nesoi. That's a very good model. Now, obviously, if we want to bring in people from the island to another island on site, learning from each other, 10 people together with experts, with the local partners, and so make this really a very focused training for that island. Now, if you have one island of the Baleares and let's say a Danish island, then obviously that doubles the cost of coming together. It is not impossible, but it's a practical constraint because we don't have budget to bring 5 people from all over Europe for one of these 30 islands together. We want to bring many together there. So it is possible. It's not excluded. It's important that it's functioning and that it's feasible. I know that's not a definite answer, but it's possible.
Thank you very much. And just a very small one. Yeah. In an island with several municipalities, say more than 10, is it an appropriate project if you have, I don't know, 3, 4 municipalities involved? Or do you need all the municipalities from an island? Do you need all the authorities of an island to be actually involved, or only part of them?
Strictly speaking, we would ideally, it would really be all of them. That's really because we want to have the whole island experience, and we don't want some municipalities who do not feel involved with what is happening in going on the energy transition for their island. So that's really important. So if possible, really, yes, we would say to have all the municipalities together. On the other hand, what we specifically don't want is that, for example, a couple of municipalities hand in a project and a couple of other municipalities hand in another project, because then you get the competition, we need to evaluate it, we need to have geographical distribution. So it's beneficial that everybody sits together and looks at it, what is important for me for the energy transition, what is important for you, and that you come to a cooperative project with the possibility to point an island transition team that will also be responsible in handling it. Yeah.
And again, it has to be functioning and feasible. If there's a cooperation between the municipalities, perhaps you can apply with like a municipal organization, a regional government or a regional energy agency, and say, we'll go with them, knowing that behind there's these municipalities. That's a way sort of going to the next level. If and I echo what Sarah said, you know, in principle, it's ideal you want the whole island to cooperate. Now, if there's one laggard doesn't want to cooperate, we're not going to stop the progress of the whole island either, you know. But if you only have, say, a fraction of the island or some villages, and then the rest doesn't want to cooperate on this project, then we will need to look at the impact, which was one of the criteria. Are we really doing something then? Or are we just sort of working in a corner of an island for what? So there's no formal exclusion there, but again, you have to then convince that it's feasible and practical. And we had the question also on, because not all islands are municipalities. Sometimes they're part of a municipality which also is on the mainland, which is not always so interested in some of the parts that are their islands. And then you have to look down, not to the higher regional level, but to the local within the municipality. Do you have a functioning organization that can say, we work with our island, which is part of a bigger municipality, but we can do this, and we have some agency and we have the support of our municipality to do this. So, and that's why we insist on having a public local authority. It can be part of a municipality, the municipality can be a regional organization, but we insist on having one, because we also have to be honest with each other. If you don't have the support of your municipality, who gives permits and so forth, then what are you going to do? I mean, that shouldn't become one of the obstacles right away. So it's important to have at least some formal structure that is backing you. Kostas? Okay, and then... There. It's coming. Yeah.
Two questions, if I may. Yeah. First one might be obvious, or maybe I skipped it. Are we referring to electrically isolated islands which are eligible, or it can be also interconnected islands? Because it's a completely different case between these two, and everybody understands that in the case of an interconnected island, the exercise is much easier, or maybe not, because in the interconnected island, what are we considering as 100% renewables? Does the country, which brings the electricity, needs to be 100% renewables? I guess not. Or are we just doing some accounting exercises to say that you generate, and on an annual basis, it's 100% renewables, which is, I guess, it's much more easier. So that's the one question, please. And the second one, with regard to financing, I understand you're going to propose some very specific financing mechanisms for these projects. Is there an idea, or are you considering, and actually I'm referring mainly to the Commission, of a specific financing mechanism dedicated for this program? Like, is there a Christmas present for this, Edita?
Well, unfortunately, I would like to give Christmas presents, but I'm not a Santa Claus. I don't look like one. So, no, honestly, as we discussed many times before, but also in this, we don't want to invent new money or to retarget new money. We want to fill the gap. As we said, there is a gap between the needs and the ideas and whatever is developed on the islands or cities, be it there, and between the tools which are and financial instruments and funds which are already there. So what we want to do with this project, to come to lift from the ground if needed, or to come in the stages of development to complete the transition preparation and to have really clear projects, steps which need to fill in the gaps of the islands, and to have them with all financial plans, with all guidance to which fund to go, to where to go. On our side in the Commission, of course, we do our job. We'll go to talk to each of those islands, geographical program managers in DG Regio, to other programs, and to make sure that they are aware, they are behind it, and they know that the projects will be coming, and they consider them as a kind of a bit of, a sealed label saying this is something you need to go for, because this is our common objective. As Kadri Simpson said, Commission is behind it. And when I talk Commission, is not only us and DG Energy, it's also other colleagues. So commitment is on all sides. In order to succeed, we all need to do our job. But again, I'm being not popular here, and I'm not a politician, so I don't need to. I mean, we don't want to come and say, look, there is lots of money, all apply. No, we say we will help you to take the money which is there, and it's beneficial for all of us. Because we also, as a Commission, we want to invest this money. I mean, we want to show the results. So help us to do it, and then, after 1 year, we can take the stock, maybe after 2 years, and see if something doesn't work, we will see how to, kind of make it, repair it, and maybe to claim and to, negotiate, to try to find specific other sources if we say that, okay, there is a problem. We are not, even if we have a good project, it's all done and it's sealed, we still don't have finances. So, but I take it from there, let's start from where we can start.
And for your first question,
whether it's isolated or interconnected also.
It doesn't necessarily have to be the non-interconnected. And when it is interconnected, the island is what we're looking at, not the whole member state.
So basically, you're responsible for your exports, but not for your imports, in terms of cleaning that up.
So the exports need to be 24/7 renewables, or on an annual basis as an accounting, let's say.
It's a guiding principle, as been said. We don't do the accounting of whether at 6 o'clock in the evening you're fulfilling that criteria or not. We plan for 100%. We plan perhaps for export if there's a cable. We talked about Chalki and Rhodos. Chalki has on an annual basis is fully renewable, but it is also sourced via Rhodos, and that's not 100% renewable energy. That's far from it. So there's an exchange there. So we will look at that. We'll work with that situation as it is, and move towards the 100%. And if there's distinct islands which are cabled together and sort of not on the mainland but together, that's perhaps one of the reasons to say let's go together in an application as islands that are connected amongst each other, but not with the mainland grid.
I think, again, I want to make this point because it was appearing in other things. I think here we are not looking so much into accounting. I mean, it's important. I mean, this is also EU policy to reduce emissions as a whole. But here, I mean, we are trying to look transformation, real transformation on the life, how islanders kind of produce their energy, how they consume it, how they use for different sectors. So, you know, what is really important for us is to see the concrete transformation projects and changes. And of course, if there is connection which can facilitate it, let's admit, I mean, it can kind of support more renewable integration to the grid. We are happy, that's a facilitation, but of course we don't want it to become the barrier and say, yeah, we are connected, I mean, we don't care. Look, maybe we do a little kind of sockets for the cars and that's it, we are fully renewable. No, I think we need to think what we want to do and what we can do more and better than we do now in order to actually become more renewable, become more clean. So I think, yeah, that's the idea.
We have 2 more questions here, 3 more questions here, and there. First.
Thank you. So I have a question about this islands transition team. I understand it should involve at least 3 organizations, probably a large set of people, over 3 years, probably as well. How much effort is required, or what are the expectations towards the transition team? And I understand that this team would not be remunerated as part of the assistance. So it is a kind of voluntary input. So it's a big number of people over 3 years voluntarily contributing. Right.
Now the work will not take 3 years. It will be planned in the 3 years, working with your specific case. So that will be, if I said that the planning will be taking into account also as much as possible the needs of the island, and you have certain restrictions there, you can always tell us, and so we can try to find a solution to plan it optimally when you have the resources available, or when you can arrange them to become available. So we have possibilities there. But it's clear that indeed we need human resources from the side of the island to work with us that we can rely on and that are there. Yeah.
Well, it's your transition. You know, it's you who want to become 100% renewable. If you don't want to, if you say, oh, we're not interested in this, then you don't apply. If you know, I mean, you want to start this trajectory, and we are there to support you. We're not there full time for 3 years. That's also, I mean, that's clear. We are there to support you with the things that you cannot do yourself, or that you think here we would need some help because, you know, we're not very good in attracting financing, or we want some feasibility studies that we're lacking to get the project going. That's where we can deliver. You know, you want to be connected with other islands with the same problem. We'll deliver that. So, but it's you that are planning to do this trajectory. So that's why it's important that we have local authority behind it, because it's a common commitment of the island community in whatever legal form. And second, to also have stakeholders. And now you don't need to come with you know, a list of 15 different stakeholders that are all committing. If you have it, if you have, for instance, already done a CETA and the stakeholders have committed to that, fine. But if you don't have it, that's not the problem. You can say, okay, we will work with a renewable energy center or an agency which is active on the island, or a group like La Palma Renewable who has a long standing partnership to work on that. So you can choose there as long as it's credible to say we're going to do this trajectory over 3 years, and then we come with support. And who is we? So we will have from the secretariat for each of the 30 islands an island responsible, like one person who will be the direct contact for the project, and then we'll look at the different experts that are needed for your case. Second, the regional partner, and we've shown the network of regional partner. The regional partner will also be involved in that action and be there to support you. Now, I had the question already, can the regional partner itself be a stakeholder on the site and help the local authority to do some of the groundwork? And the answer is yes. The regional partner can be a very active player in this transition team. We actually recommend it. It's a good thing. And the regional partner will also get some money for that, some remuneration for the actions taken. Now, that's also not illimited, so there's boundaries to everything for 30 islands, as you can count. But so that's the way it fits together. 3 parties: regional partner, island secretariat who organizes the expert, and then the local transition team. And those 3 will work together for securing this technical assistance over the 3 years. Obviously, you don't, let's say, you cannot get to 100% with just 5 meetings with these 3 instances. You know, there's a lot more work to be done, a lot more field work to be done, but that needs to be done in any case. You know, if you want to build solar farms in your island and stack batteries to it, it's not going to be this transition team who does the building and does all the preparation and so forth. You know, there will be work additional to what the technical assistance can deliver. So.
Maybe also one point I add on it, because again, we are looking at the commitment. When we talk about commitment of the island, of the public authorities, we don't mean only by commitment, which is saying, yes, indeed, it's nice, go ahead. We're talking when they are committed, they want, their resources to be kind of employed into that. I mean, the resources they have, the people, if they decide to go to 100% renewable or to go towards that objective and to shape the island's destiny. I think when we are looking at examples, it's not like in Halki, we never paid anyone in Halki to work with us. So, it's like when we talk about other islands, probably they could share. Yes, the project assistance comes, but in terms of, the groundwork, it's, as Jan said, it's your transition. And we want it to be a constant path, not only the project for 3 years when we finance you people, the money finishes and, people leave somewhere else. And then, this is the worst. What we could do is to create this whole thing and leave it in the middle of the way. No, this is kind of a bit of when you change your kind of the way how you live on the island, how you build the island community, how you build your future. This is the thing. I think, I understand the problem that commitment is big and that, there is not always enough of local resources for having expertise and teams of transition to be employed. But I think this is one of the goals. You don't, as Jan said, you don't need to have many people for small, but at least you need to have committed resource in that sense that it would be experts working with someone, not experts working with themselves and giving you the finalized documents, which probably then go into the cupboard.
No, exactly. There was Zolan and then Maya. So, yeah, you decide amongst Croatians who speaks first.
Hello? Yes.
Hello.
Okay, so question. I have two. Maybe the second one is a suggestion to consider. But first of all, we are in the middle of the political campaign in a different in different stages within this 3 years support, which means that most probably in Greece, which political campaign I think is in October, everybody will running on having this in their political story for getting the again mayor's position. But who is then the part of the transition team if the mayor who was elected by and give the support is not elected anymore, and the other mayor maybe doesn't want to continue or doesn't want to commit? Because as I understand, the mayors are probably the main faces of the transition team, because without their political support, I don't think so that lots of other stories are possible. So before, in the previous secretariat support, it was a bit easier because we had this 1.5 year and it was mostly in the same mandate. So now we have this risk of actually having the support of the mayors that are not going to be supported after, or having a support which is going to be only on the paper because of the good story and the good timing. So that's, can we change the transition team at some point, and how we can avoid the risk of losing the political support in the middle of the project?
Well, we only want mayors that keep winning. So I hope, Mick, you're taking note. No, I mean, we considered this. I mean, there's elections in Europe all the time, everywhere. So governments do change. Local governments do change. Mayors change.
Commissioners change.
Commissioners change. You know, that's a fact of life, and there will be indeed in the 3 years there might be some changes. So that's why it's important to, and obviously political leadership is important. Mayor or someone else in the organization, local authority, that stand up for this and is behind this, it's important. That can change. But we hope that when working with the local authority, that the commitment can go beyond the next election, even if it can be fragilized, it might need to be renewed. There might be changes to the transition team. People change jobs as well. I mean, you might have someone of an energy agency and saying, okay, we committed as an energy agency to work with you. And then the contact person for this project is, you know, changing jobs. Fine, then there might be someone else, and then we'll secure a new relationship. Those things happen.
In a practical way, just are we then in some process changing the transition team, because we are committing by the names, not by the positions, as I understand, as a transition team?
Well, I would hope that a local authority commits as a local authority, and all the contracts that are signed by a local authority go beyond, you know, who's elected. I know in real life that might be a problem, and then we'll have to solve it when it is. If for instance, a new local government comes in and says, like, we stop everything that is climate or renewable because we don't want to hear from that, it's no longer our priority, it can happen. You know, it's not us who are going to say, hey, you signed up to this, so whatever the people have elected, you will stick to what we do. No, I mean, that's local democracy. If people don't want it anymore, they don't want it anymore. And then we'll have to adjust. But let's think the EU climate law is law. We are, all of us, committed to becoming climate neutral. We are committing to speed up on the islands. It's 2030 instead of 2050. We hope that this is a project which goes beyond the leadership of one elected official and is something shared in the authority, and even shared amongst parties, and even shared amongst competitors. And then we'll see.
Okay, just as another, I don't know if it's a suggestion or a question, but what it's also considered by us as a regional partner, and we have an experience of very often having to do more job than we were thinking of doing, because of course some of the transition team members, especially from the local authorities, especially because they are not paid, they didn't want to, they didn't deliver enough to close the, so actually lots of additional effort that we didn't plan within the regional partners was on our backs. So I'm suggesting or trying to find some kind of the solution before completing the tenders and deciding on who is going to be in 30s. Can we have some kind of mandates, expectations defined from the regional partners and from the transition team? Because after this, it's going to be very different from island to island. We cannot do it before because we don't know what kind of project we are going to get. But we should somehow lock how many times are expected from everybody, and then we will also avoid this kind of the questions of working 3 years. What does it mean in terms of each local municipality or each transition team? It would be much easier also to know what they can expect from the regional partner, because like this it was a little bit, at least before, it was a little bit not clear enough. More expectations that we could give or vice versa.
Yes, it's a good idea, and I think amongst regional partners we can, at the next meeting or even in a communication amongst us, be more specific about what can be offered and delivered. That's a good point. I take the recommendation.
Yeah, just to add to that, we also have the trajectory agreement in which both sides also say what the activities will be and what the effort will be. So there is also time among us, but also with the island transitioning together with everyone who's going to be involved to discuss as well what the expected effort can be.
Again, maybe I must mention, and I'm going a bit into your guys' garden, but saying, look, 3 years is the maximum, yeah? So the kind of, we are shaped by the kind of project. But okay, if you're already final, probably some islands maybe at final stage of transition, and you might to complete everything or want to complete everything, I don't know, in 1.5 years. But that's feasible. I mean, you don't need to kind of invent the work for everyone for 3 years. So yeah, like this is the thing. I mean, we have this idea, we know it's bold, it's ambition, we are trying, all of us, to make it happen. But of course, we are very happy to listen to you, especially when you go maybe home, you'll discuss it internally, and you tell us if something really makes you uncomfortable, yeah? Because this is not, as I say, it sounds well, but it was not meant to do that. We really want to make a change. So yeah, and we need everyone for that. And probably it's always important to talk about commitments and money, but I think there is something beyond that.
So we look for 30 for 30, but we can also go for 5 for 25.
So before the question, I just have a trick on commitment of local authorities. So when I started doing community energy in Croatia, in one town, although it's on mainland, we did a survey of political presence and opinions from people in this town for the mayor. And then we started to do community. And then later on, when we did the crowd investment and energy cooperative and everything, we did the same survey. And his, let's say, likeness like skyrocketed 87%. And then he was like, "Ooh, great, this is how I win the election." So he started to do the same thing. So this is one of the tricks.
Okay.
My question is, so we have like around 90 days until the deadline. And we are, let's say, selecting 30 islands. And is this the only possibility to jump on the train? Is now this 19 days and then the rest of the 3 years is nothing? We will stick only to these 30? Or if some islands are not ready right now, but maybe in 6 months or 10 months, is it possible to join the club?
In that case, we would invite you to apply anyway and to discuss with us during the interview what is your situation, what kind of projects you have ready for implementation, where you have a certain bottleneck, and then we can see together how the trajectory could look like and when you could jump in. But the deadline stays the same, but it does not everything needs to be ready before you start in January. That is a question of planning as well.
I think that's a very important point. I mean, the application is just the application. It's saying, hey, you know, who are you? And saying you want to, you know, you're a candidate. And then we'll discuss. And so we'll take some months to discuss and detail what is our agreement and assistance and so forth. And then also the timing then beyond January can be flexible. So if you're saying like, well, we would need something more like a year later, okay, fine. If we have 30 islands now, which we obviously hope to have more, if islands, groups of islands, if we have 30 now, obviously we'll go with that, and that's the last round. Now, if we only have 10, well, I mean, then we'll try again, I guess. But let's not go for that scenario yet.
Okay, I can get you went pessimistic. If we kind of suddenly have 50, yes. Okay, this is a sign for us in the Commission. I can go with the poster saying, look, you know, this is such a demand. We need
more. Yeah,
more.
okay.
We need more. But, you know, we need to show demand, and I mean, realistic demand, not inflatable demand, saying that this is exactly what. So, you know, this is, again, our job to make sure that what we come and try to offer you and to work with you, because we didn't invent it. We tried to build it on experience of 5 years. I mean, what was coming, what is the demand, what is missing, and the main thing we got, kind of one-off support for a week or twice a week, like in a year, is good, but we need comprehensive support. We need, someone who knows. We don't want experts coming to our island, and every time we spend half of this time explaining to them what is in the island, what we want to do, and then they give contradicting, conclusions and said, no, that was bad. So this is an agreement that we look at it and we commit to make it work as a whole. So I think that's where we come. I know that for us, it's also the other thing would be easier just to continue with one-off projects but then also we kind of, at the end, we look at it, we say, yes, we support it, 76 or 54 islands, we have nice examples, but we cannot say, look, but we have 5 islands, 10 islands, and we all together made meaningful job, which can demonstrate, from there, we'll spend those steps, and this is how you become renewable. So I think we are trying to build those pathways and to be able together to show them. And I think that's kind of reasonable wish.
Okay. There's a question there and then here, I think.
Thank you. So I'm seeing you watching at the clock. So
yeah.
My name is Lilo Vatsval. So I represented the college yesterday and also today, but also kind of municipality. But I want to be a member of the community here. So it's a more of request, as you all will. So incremental, it's more of request to all representatives of Commission who are here and secretariat, because that's a rare opportunity. And I'm puzzled because I'm just this year I got 25 years dealing with regional infrastructure and regional development. I'm puzzled all the time when we talk about business cases in the regional development. Islands are not business cases. They're just part of the territory. And nation and member state have to decide, do they want to take care of them or not take care of them. And the business case can only exist if there is a market. And I want Mick to be re-elected. So let's make a distinction where there is a market and where there is not. In the grid development, there is no market here. In the small island port, there is no market. In a fiber optic cable network, there is no market here. And please, make the Commission sound and make the Secretariat sound to the national governments that they need to develop islands. There is no business case. We can create business cases only then if there is a grid, or when there is a grid. When there is a fiber optic networks, we can move data. When there is a port development and where there are connection points in the ports. And the simplest example is I want Guido also to succeed with their offshore wind park. Mm-hmm. And the first discussion started that the cable should go to the mainland grid through the sea. It's stupid. Then the second version is, okay, it comes over the Saaremaa island, as we are right now. But the real need is to get all the islands into the renewables. Also Hiiumaa, also Vormsi we have talked about, and also to get all the transport into renewables. So the only option should be to take the cable to Saaremaa, then through the ports to the Hiiumaa, then to Vormsi, and then to mainland, thus creating the options to everybody. It's not as rocket science, isn't it? So request is, please, tell member states, tell governments that islands are not business cases. We are just important parts of you. If you won't take care of it, someone else will. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And yeah, I hope the same as you say, but I'm coming back with a request because you talk to your government much more often than we do as a commission. Yeah, and that should be like that, yes. Indeed, I'll do, and my colleagues will do our case. We come, especially with the islands, we come specifically to the parties which are really responsible for regional development. But I know that here you are very lucky because I understand that the new minister for regional development in Estonia is former mayor of Saaremaa, no? So basically you have direct air and someone who is in part deciding on where the funding goes, of what the money is about. It's from here. So that's probably the closest. I mean, we always are a bit of, not shy, but we don't want to be Brussels finger telling, to the government and to the island, guys, you need to talk. But yes, when you need us, we come in and we try to exactly say, as you say, it's not always about money. It's sometimes about the life of people who are your people, and who are, in development. So I think this is community which understands. But I absolutely also hear that this political support and push a bit through all channels, which are there, we all need to do it. And yes, that's recorded and that will be done.
Great. Okay, last comment. Alexi, you have the last word.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. But I just wanted to point out that the fact that we are here and the fact that there is a Clean Energy for Joanna Secretariat and that the fact that there are budget lines earmarked for islands is precisely because there is the realization that it's not something the market can solve by itself. And there is this kind of support in terms of other grants like NESOI and technical assistance programs like the Secretariat. So, of course, we can do more, and of course, there's more to be done and more realization and political support. But we're already doing it in a way. So, just a positive message on this.
Exactly, and even beyond what you name, there's the regional, there's the resilience funds, there's the regional funds, and so forth. And we don't decide that. What and Edita, I think, explained. Being one of the 30 islands can help you in levering that money, but obviously it will go through its own procedures. That's always the case. We don't bypass the ways of doing that. Good. There can be more questions. We are here. Sarah explained also on the slide. It's there. You can call us, contact us, talk to us, mail us. Information will be on the website. The guide will be out. The forums, everything will be on the website. This session recorded. You can rewatch it, laugh again. So it's all there, and we're there to help you because we want, obviously, 30 great cases. We are interested in this. We want to do this. We want to get on with this, and we can't wait to have this whole preparation done so we can start in January with the real work, the urgent work, the practical work. We're looking forward to that.